Mr. Puri, as always, thank you very, very much for joining us here on the IBLA stage once again. Let me start by asking you, the Prime Minister made a statement when he spoke at the COP summit, saying that he would propose that India hosts the next COP 2028 summit, in 2028, the COP 33 summit, excuse me. What's the roadmap? How do we intend to be able to get there?
The statement was made only yesterday, and I think you saw it as soon as I saw it. Therefore, there is no claim to inside knowledge that I have. But I can tell you it's a brilliant decision. As a citizen of India, I welcome it for a variety of reasons. Number one, since the several meetings of the UNFCCC or the COP meetings, India has moved very quickly to reposition itself. I mean, the earlier discourse was about the polluter pays principle, you are responsible, he is responsible. We've now reached a stage where we acknowledge as to whoever is responsible, we also have a duty to our next generation. We've got to leave the planet in a slightly better position than we inherited it. And the rate at which we are going, we are probably it's going to be worse. But before we go to COP and what will happen 5 years from now, etc., let me just say that, and something that you quoted Aristotle.
Yes.
There is something about excellence. I don't know whether Aristotle said anything about it, but the kind of people, leaders of industry that you are honoring here today, they would have made a mark even if they had not been in India, they'd been in any other world. So let's start by applauding that. And now we see the entire ecosystem shifting from, fossil fuel to green sustainable energy, from traditional polluting ways of doing business to this thing. So I think it's only appropriate that the Honorable Prime Minister has positioned India. I think he's put in a claim for the COP meeting in 2028. I believe there's a process which you have to undergo, but I think considering the kind of effort being made in India, I'm sure that the Indian desire to host that event, and I'm sure that what happens is that if you host the G20, I find somebody intimately connected with the G20 here. He was last seen holding his suit carrier with me in Delhi airport in delayed flights. He just got here. But the preparation for the event itself acts as a very major incentive for different parts of the economy, the ecosystem, all the industry, everybody to start focusing on that. So if you're hosting a COP meeting, and I'm personally delighted, but I'm not going to make any pronouncements on that you'll have to invite Mr. Bhupendra Yadav or anyone else to do that.
Okay, I won't go down that road, so I won't ask you about future pronouncement, but let me ask you about what you are going to say. You are headed to COP right after this event.
No, I keep having changes of plans all the time. But I'll tell you there's something fascinating happening. This COP meeting was hosted or is still being hosted for another few days by a country which is a major fossil fuel producer.
Correct.
And yet that country wants to transition. Now, I think therein lies the dilemma, or rather the dilemma to understand what is happening in the world. I mean, the UN Secretary General made a statement, and I'm an old friend of his. We served together in Geneva many, many years ago. He said that if the planet is on fire, you cannot use a garden hose or something to put out the fire. True, but we are living in a complicated world where almost any outlandish statement that you make could be true. You need to transition from fossil fuel to green energy. India is doing it faster. I also believe that when there's turbulence in the global market, the transitioning takes place faster. But you have to be realistic. If you were to suddenly stop the use of existing brands or kinds of energy, whatever they be, you would have chaos. You saw that during the economic meltdown. Once the economy closes down, then you move to a crisis in livelihood. So I think what we are needing to do, and I'm sure that the Indian position, which has always been forward-looking and constructive, we will navigate from the current situation. We already changed our position in Glasgow. I remember when the Honorable Prime Minister was on the flight between, I think, Paris and Glasgow, suddenly when he reached there and he made pronouncements, I think the bureaucracy was taken aback. Because he said you have to be part of the solution. And I think with India expecting to host the meeting in 2028, which will mean that you will have a more focused, vigorous Indian leadership of issues relating to climate change, both within the country and in the international arena.
You know, so you said we need to be mindful about the transition that we make, and we've set targets on the renewable side for what we intend to achieve. But, you know, companies that you are responsible for, the oil marketing companies, BPCL and so on and so forth, and I know you've just come away from a meeting. I mean, for them, you know, how easy or how challenging and complex is this transition going to be?
I have some good news to give you. The problem is not the oil marketing companies. If we have a national target of net zero by 2070, all the oil marketing companies have targets before 2040.
Correct.
Most of them are 2035 or 2040. So they are already on the way there. I mean, when I go to see, look, I hope my friend R.K. Singh doesn't mind, or somebody else, but I should not be called the Minister for Petroleum and Natural Gas. I should be called the Minister for Energy Transition. Because what our refineries are now...
Have you made this suggestion to the Prime Minister?
No, you know, this is not something you suggest to the Prime Minister. You get away by making this statement with Shireen Ban and it gets around. But I think the intention is that the focus of the IOCL has 11 refineries. 2 of them are already devoted to green hydrogen. I keep playing one against the other. Today I told the BPCL when I was reviewing their performance, I said when I joined in 2021, July, I was associated with this ministry. This was a company up for sale.
Yeah.
Their half-yearly profit was what? 39,000 crores? Yeah. 19,000 crores. Net profit after tax. A company that you wanted to privatize in July 2021, today is going to end up with a profit like this. And what was the presentation to me on? Sir, we are in collaboration with such and such company to make electrolyzers. We are setting up a green hydrogen power plant. That is the real story.
So privatization off the cards then?
You want to privatize a company which will end up with a 50,000 crore?
I'm asking, sir. I'm asking because the government said that they don't want to.
Absolutely. So I turned around and asked, who put the privatization on the table? Certainly not my ministry then. You see, what happens is different parts of our system function with a view to achieving results. Now, if you think that something... I was also the Minister for Civil Aviation when you privatized Air India.
Yeah.
And not because of anything else. One initial belief, like Amitabh gives me tutorials on how the private sector is very efficient, the companies are very efficient. That's why I started by saying Aristotle should have said these business leaders would have been a success anywhere. In the United States, in Germany, they would have been successful. But I couldn't go to my senior colleague every year and with folded hands ask for 8,000 crores to run Air India. And what happened? We are laughing, all the aircraft manufacturers are laughing their way to the bank. An order has been placed by Indian Airlines, I mean Air India and another one with private sector, large share, of 1,000 planes. Now, if you do the correct kind of decision making, you get good results.
Okay, so it made sense for Air India because it was guzzling cash and saddled with debt, but you believe it no longer makes sense for a company like BPCL to be on the block?
No, I just want to understand, why do you privatize companies? Because either you don't know how to run them, or they make losses, etc. But I just gave you the figures. I mean, this profit of 19,000 crores, I asked him today, he said, look, we've never made this profit in our life. Well, I had some fun. I called another company which claims to be the 7th largest in the world. They're friends of mine. So I said, you know, these guys are doing very well. So he started giving me a long explanation. They're doing well because their refineries on the coast. But, you know, it's a happy situation that in spite of taking huge under-recoveries or having under-recoveries during the pandemic, we were the only country in the world which sold where the petrol prices came down 11% over a 2-year reference period. Everywhere in the world, they went up by 30-40%. Around India, it was even more stark. And they took a cut, but they took a cut because I told one of them, look, we're a 7,000-year-old civilization. Do me a favor, for 1 year, don't crib. You know, just think of the consumer first And they played ball, and today they're all doing quite well.
You know, so let me ask you that, given what is happening geopolitically today, I mean, you've now got the ceasefire between Hamas and Israel being called off, and that battle is on. What is your view now as far as global commodities are concerned, and what this could potentially mean in the near term?
Look, I have to be very careful. Anything I say here will not remain within the confines of this very eminent August gathering. But I'll tell you another thing. OPEC Plus had a meeting yesterday. I went to Vienna just about a few days ago, and I told the OPEC Secretary General, you know, my position as petroleum minister has never been, please reduce the price. The energy is a sovereign asset you've got. You do what you want with it. You want to leave it underground. You want to extract it. You want to extract more of it. Entirely your call. But let me remind you, there was a time in 2008 when energy prices went up. With a current situation where half the world is in recession and the other half is flirting with recession, if oil prices go up, demand is going to drop. Well, yesterday they added to their 1 million barrels a day cut. They put another million barrels on the table. And you know what happened to the oil market? It came down.
Yeah.
Came down to $79 a barrel. I don't want to tempt fate, but I can tell you, whatever is happening in the world today, we need energy prices to remain stable and predictable. Somebody asked me, how low do you want them? I said, no, I'm a consumer. I want them very low, but you're not going to reduce them because I or India wants it low. Yeah. Look, the situation in the Middle East, again, I don't want to tread on other people's toes. We have managed it so far. The fight between Hamas as a terrorist group, we condemn the attack, but we still believe, and as does the rest of the world, and we've reiterated it, the PM has reiterated it, the Palestinian people are not a terrorist group. The Israelis have a right to coexist. Israel has a right to exist, and any terror attack on them has to be condemned. So I'm glad that there was a ceasefire which has resulted in the release of what?
Yeah.
39 or so?
More.
39 or more plus prisoners. I am hoping, as has been said by the Indian state system at the highest level, that better sense will prevail and that the remaining hostages will be freed and that the focus will be towards peace rather than a resumption of hostilities. The cessation of hostilities for the interim period was good. I hope it can continue.
You know, we are here to celebrate and honor the recipients of the India Business Leader Awards. I don't want to labor too much, but from a consumer's point of view, I want to understand from you, what can we expect now as far as the subsidy bill is concerned, specifically on LPG subsidies? The government has provided a further relief and a further cushion. Is more expected?
No, you know, I have one position as a line minister. I'd like to make LPG distribution free. But then, you know, I also have a senior colleague sitting in North Block. Look, let me put it this way. There was a loss that the companies incurred, I think, of 28,000 crores. We are grateful to them that they showed sensitivity. Some other companies did not do it. We're not happy about that. But that's their sovereign, that's their commercial decision. We compensated them for 22,000 crores out of the 28,000 crores they lost. I'm glad their results have been good subsequently, and they've not only reclaimed. So I keep telling them, now that you've made the money, next time you need to look at prices, you do that. They all smile. But look, they are answerable to their shareholders. The government has a limited role to play when you are dealing with those. I don't know how much revenue do they produce, the OMCs together. Over 20% of the government's revenue comes from these companies. So they are responsible corporate citizens. You didn't ask me this, and I don't want to answer the question. I'm asking, oh, कोई चुनाव हो रहा है इसलिए दाम कर? अरे भाई चुनाव तो यहाँ हर 6 महीने में होते हैं. No, it's not that.
चुनाव तो हो गया. Result क्या आने वाला है कल, sir?
We'll win 5-0. 5-0. Tomorrow, wait till tomorrow. No, 5-0 only 4-1 लोग कह रहे हैं, but I am the eternal optimist. I think it will be very good. My friend there is nodding and he knows about these things also. Yeah.
Okay, so let me end then by asking you, Mr. Puri, we're at the end of this calendar year, and of course we've got plenty to digest at this point in time. As I pointed out, India in a sweet spot. We've seen a blistering growth number coming in as far as the GDP is concerned. Your key priorities, what are you going to be focusing on?
First of all, you had a scintillating Santur performance. You're not just a sweet spot. You are the one country in the world which has its act together. So don't be defensive about that. And the reason you've got your act together is because the private sector, which is a dynamo of wealth creation, is doing a damn good job.
Yeah.
So let's celebrate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know why I'm in a provocative mood, because I've been traveling relentlessly the last 10 days.
Go for it, sir.
I feel very happy personally when I see cross-fertilization. I mean, people who were in the finance ministry now joining the board of Hindustan Unilever. I think it's a damn good choice.
Yes.
I mean, why do people who work in the government only want to be in the government? When I should encourage a lot of people to leave the government and go to the private sector. Yeah. Amitabh, I'm not looking at you. I'm not looking at you. It just so happened that my friend was here, so Seemaji, so I'm just looking at her, and then you happen to be sitting behind her.
Well,
no, let me give you the priority.
Yes, please.
Look. Let's be very clear. Whether you buy the undiluted 7.6% in the second quarter, you know, April, May, June was good. July, August, September was even better. As I think the coming one, October, November, December will be still better.
That's right.
What we need to do is to move to the mindset that, and the Prime Minister, I think, is leading the charge on that you're moving in the direction of becoming a Viksit Desh, and please acknowledge the contribution of those who are making it possible. And I am hoping that when we go into 2024 and after that, that is the real story, after 2024. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there are some guys who still think that they have an alternate formulation, but I think they are, you know, somewhat delusional. But I think the economy post-2024 will show the kinds of results. And, you know, whether you buy the 7.6, I read a very long article today and an analysis. Well, you know, that last year that period was negative. It doesn't matter. Even if that was negative, if this one had not been 7.6, so what would have happened? You would have been below. So I think I read another article by somebody whom I don't always agree with, that when you look at GDP figures, look at the hard reality.
Yes.
Avoid the decibel music surrounding that.
Yes.
But I'm very confident, and I think we are in for even more. So don't just call it a sweet spot.
Okay.
We are the country which has its act together.
We are a country which has its act together. Hardeep Puri, thank you so much for joining us here this evening, for your provocative views. And I have to say, I like the sound of the energy transition minister. I think that certainly is an idea worth taking forward.
And by the way, when you put that statement out, say that I wasn't doing advocacy for the ministry. I wasn't. I genuinely believe that the focus now is on biofuels, compressed biogas. It's on those kinds of things.
Well, thank you very much, sir. I'd also like to take a moment to welcome Mrs. Seema Goyal. Thank you very much for joining us here at the India Business Leader Awards. It's an absolute pleasure to have you. So we're going to request you to take your seat and come back in just a moment from now.
Thank you, Mr. Puri and Shireen. Well, ladies and gentlemen, what an incredible start to the evening with insightful perspectives. The conversation has truly set the bar very, very high for the night.
Indeed, Sonia. And now we carry forward the momentum with the first set of awards where we shine a spotlight on the youthful force and their transformative impact on the